Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating resurrection of a nearly forgotten audio format, ZZM. It's a wild ride, folks.
ZZM? Sounds intriguing. I've never heard of it. What's the story?
It's tied to ZZT, a text mode game from 1990. Think incredibly basic, but incredibly influential. ZZT used the PC speaker for its sound, and ZZM was a format created to play those simple tunes outside the game itself. The problem? All existing players needed MS-DOS.
So, a dead format. Until now? What's the revival all about?
Exactly. The author, Nicole Brannigan, decided to create a JavaScript-based player. A bold move, considering the original's limitations. She's essentially bridging a huge technological gap.
JavaScript? That's unexpected. Why JavaScript for something so retro?
Well, it's ubiquitous, readily available in browsers, and it lets her reach a much wider audience than a DOS-based player ever could. It's a brilliant choice for accessibility, you know? Plus, it's a fun challenge.
I see. So how did she actually recreate the sound? Did she just use samples?
Not quite. She had to reverse engineer the entire process. She used ASCII's reconstruction of the ZZT source code, a monumental achievement in itself, to understand how ZZT generated its square wave sounds using the PC speaker's programmable interval timer. Then, she used the Web Audio API to generate those same square waves in JavaScript.
Wow, that's some serious reverse engineering. So it's not just a simple conversion, it's a recreation of the original sound engine?
Precisely. She even recreated the frequency table, which is slightly off from modern tuning, giving it that unique retro sound. It's amazing the level of detail she went into.
And the drums? The article mentions some quirks with the drums. How did she handle those?
Ah yes, the drums. They're generated by playing a series of single frequencies in quick succession. The original ZZT code uses a random number generator, and Nicole tried to replicate that using JavaScript's math.random. She even notes that the quirks in the sound might be due to differences between Turbo Pascal's random number generator and JavaScript's.
That's a really interesting detail. It highlights how even seemingly simple things can have unexpected nuances when you try to perfectly replicate them across different systems and programming languages. It's a testament to the author's dedication to accuracy.
Absolutely. It's not just about getting the music to play. It's about capturing the essence of the original ZZT sound. The article even includes audio comparisons between her JavaScript player and the original DOS-based player, highlighting the subtle differences and similarities. It's a truly impressive feat of technical skill and historical preservation.
This is fascinating. So where can people find this JavaScript ZZM player and learn more?
The article includes links to the GitHub repository with the code, so you can check it out and even contribute. It's a great example of how passion for retro technology can lead to innovative solutions and a revival of almost lost artifacts. It's truly inspiring.
Definitely. Thanks for sharing this amazing story. It's a great example of how seemingly insignificant things from the past can still hold a lot of value and fascination today.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating story about a celestial mix-up, an asteroid that turned out to be Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster. Can you believe it?
No way! That's incredible! So what happened exactly? Was it a case of mistaken identity by some new AI system?
Not quite an AI mishap, but a good old-fashioned case of mistaken identity, involving both professional and amateur astronomers. It all started when a citizen scientist, let's call him G, discovered an object, initially designated 2018 CN41, with an orbit bringing it surprisingly close to Earth.
So, a near-Earth object, NEO, potentially hazardous? That's serious stuff.
Precisely. It was flagged as a potential threat, the kind that could warrant a billion-dollar space probe mission. But then, less than 17 hours later, the Minor Planet Center, MPC, issued a retraction. It wasn't an asteroid at all.
Oh my gosh, what was it then?
It was Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster, launched into space back in 2018 as a payload for the Falcon Heavy rocket's first flight. Remember Starman, the mannequin in the driver's seat?
I remember that. That was a huge news story. So how did this happen? Did they just not recognize the car in space?
Well, the MPC uses software to identify objects, and it seems the Roadster's unusual orbit, combined with a lack of comprehensive tracking of deep space objects, led to the misidentification. That's a growing problem, actually.
A growing problem? You mean more than just Elon Musk's car getting misidentified as an asteroid?
Exactly. The article points out that deep space is largely unregulated. There's no central repository for the trajectories of all spacecraft, unlike the more closely monitored near-Earth orbits. This lack of transparency could lead to wasted resources and even hinder efforts to protect Earth from actual asteroid threats.
That's a serious concern. So what's the solution? Should we just start tagging all spacecraft with giant, easily identifiable labels?
Haha, that's one idea. But seriously, the MPC and JPL are working on a better system to identify artificial objects in deep space. A central, regularly updated database is crucial. And, better communication between space agencies and companies is also key.
Makes sense. And this whole thing highlights the important role of amateur astronomers, right? Citizen scientists like G are making real contributions.
Absolutely. G's discovery, even though it turned out to be a car, helped highlight this issue and improve the system. He even co-discovered 2 asteroids through a citizen science project.
That's amazing. So, from a near-Earth asteroid scare to a quirky story about Elon Musk's Roadster, quite the twist.
Indeed. It's a reminder that even in the vastness of space, there's always room for a good laugh, and a valuable lesson about the importance of transparency and collaboration in space exploration. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this unusual space story. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into smartphone security for protesters, activists, and journalists. It's a crucial topic, especially given the increasing risks of surveillance. The stakes are high.
Absolutely, this is a critical issue. The article highlights the inherent conflict. Smartphones are vital tools for organization and communication, but they're also incredibly vulnerable to surveillance. So what are the key risks outlined?
Right. The article lays out several key risks. Losing your device is a big one, obviously. But then there's the threat of authorities confiscating your phone, service disruptions, either intentional or due to network overload, and, of course, targeted and mass surveillance. Targeted surveillance can involve disrupting service, blocking calls and texts, monitoring unencrypted traffic, even monitoring local radio communications.
Wow, that's a lot. And mass surveillance is even broader, right? They could throttle or block popular platforms, interfere with messaging apps, use public Wi-Fi to monitor traffic. It's a pretty bleak picture.
It is pretty intense. But the article doesn't just focus on the problems, it offers practical solutions. The first step is securing your device itself. A strong screen lock, think alphanumeric passphrase, not just a PIN, is essential. Brute forcing a long passphrase is much harder than a simple PIN.
I see. Interesting. And the article also suggests disabling biometric authentication, which is counterintuitive to what we usually recommend, but makes sense in this context. Authorities can use biometrics to unlock phones quickly, so a passphrase is a better bet.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. You lose the convenience of biometrics, but gain stronger legal protection. The article also stresses hiding notifications, disabling lock screen actions, and avoiding external storage. All about minimizing your attack surface.
Got it. And what about protecting against surveillance itself? The article mentions disabling AirDrop, which I had no idea was such a vulnerability, and locking down your network by disabling 2Gs. That's a new one for me.
Yeah, AirDrop's vulnerability is pretty shocking. And disabling 2G is a good preventative measure against older, less secure Stingray devices. The article also recommends using airplane mode frequently and disabling location services. Minimizing your digital footprint is key.
I'm a little surprised by the emphasis on airplane mode. Isn't that a bit extreme? How do you communicate then?
That's a valid point. The article acknowledges that. It suggests using Signal for secure communication, but emphasizes minimizing its use and keeping your phone in airplane mode as much as possible. It's about balancing security and communication needs.
Right. And the article also covers other important tips, like using Signal, protecting access to information, changing camera settings, backing up your data, and being mindful of others when sharing photos online. It's a comprehensive guide.
Absolutely. It even goes into detail about removing photo metadata and what to do if your phone is taken. It's a really thorough and practical guide for anyone involved in protests or activism. It's a must-read.
Definitely. It's a great resource for anyone concerned about their digital security in potentially risky situations. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Remember to stay informed, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paper on incentivizing reasoning in LLMs using reinforcement learning, DeepSeek R1. It's a really exciting development.
Yeah, I've been following the advancements in LLM reasoning with great interest. So DeepSeek-R1, huh? What's the core idea?
Essentially, they've used reinforcement learning to train two models, DeepSeek R10 and DeepSeek R1. The 0 version is trained purely with RL, no supervised fine-tuning. Amazing, right?
That's impressive. No SFT? So it learns reasoning purely through trial and error, guided by the RL reward signal?
Precisely. And, the results are not surprising. DeepSeek R10 shows some really powerful reasoning behaviors, emerging naturally from the RL process. But, there are some quirks.
Quirks? Like what?
Well, the paper mentions readability issues and, get this, language mixing. It seems the model sometimes mixes different languages or styles within a single response. It's a bit messy, you know?
I see. So they needed a cleanup crew, so to speak. That's where DeepSeek R1 comes in?
Exactly. DeepSeek R1 addresses these issues. They added multi-stage training and used some cold start data before applying RL. This improved the readability and overall reasoning performance significantly.
Interesting. So it's a refinement of the 0 version. Did they benchmark it against anything?
Oh yeah. They compared DeepSeek R1 to OpenAI's 11217 on reasoning tasks, and the performance is comparable. That's a huge accomplishment, considering the different training methodologies.
Comparable to OpenAI's model? That's a major breakthrough. What about the open sourcing aspect?
That's another great point. They've open-sourced both DeepSeek R10 and DeepSeek R1, along with 6 dense models of varying sizes, 1.5B, 7B, 8B, 14B, 32B, and 70B parameters, distilled from DeepSeek R1, based on QN and Llama architectures. This is a huge boon for the research community.
This is fantastic news for researchers. Access to these models will accelerate progress in LLM reasoning. But I'm curious, what are the limitations of this approach? Is RL training always the best way to go?
That's a great question. While RL is powerful, it's computationally expensive. And the need for careful reward function design is crucial. The poorly designed reward can lead to unintended behaviors, as seen in DeepSeek R10's initial language mixing issues. It's a trade-off between the power of RL and the cost and complexity of implementation.
Right, a very valid point. It highlights the importance of careful engineering in this field. So overall, DeepSeek-R1 represents a significant step forward in LLM reasoning. The open sourcing is particularly commendable.
Absolutely. It's a very exciting development, and I'm eager to see how the research community utilizes these open source models. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into DeepSeek R1. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a seriously exciting opportunity. A founding account executive role at Hyperbound, a Y Combinator company. This isn't just any sales job. It's a chance to be part of something huge.
Yeah, I saw the posting. $260,000, $300,000 OTE plus equity. That's impressive, especially for a startup, as Poundin. But what really caught my eye was their claim of $1 million plus ARR in under 11 months, founder-led, with a 90% plus win rate. That's insane.
Totally. They're disrupting sales tech with AI-powered sales training for enterprise teams. And the fact that they achieved that growth with almost entirely inbound leads speaks volumes about their product-market fit. It's a testament to a truly compelling product.
Right. But a 90% plus win rate? That almost sounds too good to be true. Is there any nuance to that figure? Are these smaller deals? Or are they really closing huge contracts with that kind of consistency?
That's a valid point. The posting mentions ACVs ranging from $30,000 to multiple six figures, so it's a mix. But even with that range, a 90% plus win rate in a competitive landscape is still incredibly impressive. It suggests a highly effective sales process and a superior product. It also highlights the importance of their sales training, which is, after all, what they sell.
I see. So the role itself involves closing those large mid-market and enterprise deals. It's a full-cycle role, meaning they're not just looking for closers, but people who can manage the entire sales process, from prospecting to closing.
Exactly. And it's not just about closing deals. They want someone who can help shape the sales organization. They're looking for someone who's resourceful, thinks outside the box, and is comfortable working alongside the founders to develop sales strategy. They even mention working with Bilal Batrawi to build a modern outbound motion, which is a huge opportunity for the right candidate.
That's a great point. The emphasis on collaboration and strategic thinking is refreshing. Many sales roles are purely transactional, but this one seems to offer a much more significant impact on the company's trajectory. And the interview process itself is interesting. Behavioral calls, a discovery call breakdown, and even a mock call using their AI roleplay bots. That's a pretty thorough evaluation.
Absolutely. It shows they're serious about finding the right fit. They're not just looking for someone who can close deals. They want someone who understands their sales process, can analyze real-world scenarios, and can effectively utilize their own product. It's a very forward-thinking approach to hiring.
On time, one thing that stands out is the requirement to self-source 30 to 40% of the pipeline. That's a significant expectation, especially for a founding role. It suggests a high degree of autonomy and self-motivation.
You're right, that's a big commitment. But it also speaks to their confidence in the product and the potential for success. If you can generate your own leads and close deals consistently, the earning potential is huge. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation, which is typical of a founding role in a fast-growing startup.
It definitely is. Overall, this seems like a fantastic opportunity for the right person. The compensation is excellent, the company is growing rapidly, and the role offers significant responsibility and potential for impact. It's not for the faint of heart, though.
Precisely. It's a high-energy, fast-paced environment. But for someone who thrives in that kind of setting, this could be a truly life-changing opportunity. Thanks for joining me today on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a truly bizarre, yet fascinating project. The Steam Brick. It's a modded Steam Deck, stripped down to its bare essentials. Imagine a handheld gaming PC, but without the screen or controllers. Just a power button and a USB port.
Whoa, that sounds radical. Why on earth would someone do that? I mean, it's a Steam Deck, not a minimalist art installation.
Exactly. The creator, found the Steam Deck too bulky for his backpack. He often used it with AR glasses or connected to a TV anyway, so he reasoned, why not remove the unnecessary parts? It's a testament to the DIY spirit, I'll give him that.
So he essentially gutted the thing? What was involved?
Oh, it was quite the undertaking. He followed iFixit guides to carefully disassemble the Steam Deck, removing the screen, controllers, and other components. He then used the remaining aluminum frame as a base for his custom design. He even 3D- printed a new case.
A 3D- printed case? That's impressive, but also sounds incredibly fiddly. Did he encounter any major problems?
Oh yeah. He had to carefully remove excess metal from the frame using a rotary tool. a process he admits was a bit risky, and he almost forgot to mask the fan before grinding, which could have been disastrous. There's a whole section on potential hazards in the original post, by the way.
Yikes! Sounds like a project best left to experienced modders. What's the end result like?
Well, the Steam Brick is about a third the size of the original Steam Deck, and significantly lighter. It's essentially a portable PC core that you connect to external displays and controllers. He uses an 8-bit Pro 2 controller, which is a pretty popular choice.
Interesting. But, isn't losing the screen a huge drawback? It's a pretty essential part of the Steam Deck experience.
That's a valid point. The creator acknowledges that. But his goal wasn't to improve the Steam Deck, but to make it more portable. He wanted something he could easily toss into a bag without worrying about damage. It's a trade-off, you know? Portability over convenience.
I see. So it's more of a proof of concept than a practical upgrade. What about battery life?
That's still being tested, but he expects it to be similar to using the original Steam Deck with the screen off. The screen and controllers consume some power, but it's likely negligible. Pretty clever, really.
It is! It's a testament to the Steam Deck's modular design and the ingenuity of the modding community. A crazy idea, but a successful one.
Absolutely. And it's a great example of how even seemingly impractical projects can lead to interesting insights and innovations. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of the Steam Brick. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into Purely Mail, a new email hosting service promising cheap, no-nonsense email for everyone. It's really shaking things up.
Yeah, I saw their site. The pricing is unbelievably low, especially compared to the big names like ProtonMail or Google Workspace. But what's the catch?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They're upfront about their limitations. They admit their UI is a bit unpolished, and their support isn't 24/7. They also acknowledge that some obscure email servers might block their emails occasionally. But they're transparent about it all.
So it's a trade-off. Low cost for potentially slightly less polished service and support. Interesting. But what about features? Do they offer anything beyond basic email?
They're pretty basic. IMAP and POP3 compatibility, webmail powered by Roundcube, and no arbitrary limits on users or storage. That's a big plus. No per-user fees, unlike most competitors. They don't offer calendar syncing or other fancy features yet, but for the price, it's hard to complain.
Right. No bells and whistles, just email. And that's perfectly fine for many users. But what about security and reliability? That's crucial for email.
They use AWS, which is a huge plus for reliability. They also state they take security seriously, and they don't sell user data or show ads. They have a privacy policy, which is good to see. They're upfront about being in beta, so there might be some hiccups, but their architecture seems robust. They even have a status page showing their historical issues, which is a sign of transparency.
I see. So it's a high-risk, high-reward situation. Low cost, but potential for minor inconveniences. It seems ideal for individuals or small businesses that prioritize affordability over bells and whistles. What about their pricing again? You mentioned it was significantly cheaper.
Oh yeah, it's dirt cheap. They use a simple pricing model. For example, one email address with 3 gigabytes of storage costs only $10 a year. That's a fraction of the cost of competitors like ProtonMail, Fastmail, or Google Workspace. It's a game changer.
Wow, that's a compelling argument. But I'm still a little hesitant about the beta status. Are there any guarantees?
No guarantees, but they're transparent about it. They have a mailing list for those who want to wait until the beta is over. It's a risk, but for the price, it might be worth it for many. They also encourage feedback, which is a good sign.
True. It's a bold strategy, offering a bare-bones service at an incredibly low price. It'll be interesting to see how they scale and improve as they grow.
Absolutely. It's a disruptive model, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day, and remember to check out Purely Mail if you're looking for affordable email hosting. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into the Hugging Face project, OpenR1, a fully open reproduction of DeepSeek R1. It's a fascinating project, aiming to make the powerful DeepSeek R1 model accessible to everyone. Exciting stuff.
Absolutely. So the core goal is reproducibility, right? Making it so anyone can train and use this advanced reasoning model?
Precisely. The project's cleverly structured. They've broken down the process into manageable chunks. First, they're replicating the R1 distill models by distilling a high-quality corpus from the original DeepSeek-R1. Think of it as creating a smaller, more efficient version of the original.
I see. And then, what's the next stage in their plan of attack?
Next, they tackle the pure reinforcement learning, RL, pipeline used to create R10. This is where things get really interesting. They'll need to curate new, large-scale datasets for math, reasoning, and code. A huge undertaking.
A massive data set. That sounds resource-intensive. What about the third step?
Step 3 is all about demonstrating the transition from a base model to an RL-tuned model through multi-stage training. They want to show the whole process, from start to finish, is replicable. It's a complete end-to-end demonstration.
So practically, how do they achieve this? What tools and techniques are they using?
They're using a variety of tools. The code is primarily in Python, and they leverage libraries like VLLM, Accelerate, and LightVal. They're also using DeepSpeed for efficient training on large models. And they're integrating with Hugging Face Hub for model and dataset sharing. It's a pretty comprehensive tech stack.
I noticed they mentioned different training methods like DDP and DeepSpeed 0-2 and 0-3. What's the difference and why the choice?
Good question. DDP, or data parallelism, distributes the data across multiple GPUs. DeepSpeed 0, on the other hand, uses more advanced techniques to distribute the model parameters and optimizer states, allowing for training of much larger models. They offer different trade-offs in terms of scalability and memory efficiency. The choice depends on the hardware and model size.
Makes sense. And what about evaluation? How do they assess the performance of these models?
They use LightVal, a powerful evaluation tool. With custom tasks defined in their code, they can run evaluations on single GPUs, or use data or tensor parallelism for larger models, scaling across multiple GPUs. They're also using established benchmarks like AIME24.
Impressive. And data generation? How do they create synthetic data to further train and evaluate their models?
They use Distillable, a library for data augmentation and generation. They provide examples of generating data from both smaller distilled R1 models and the full DeepSeek-R1, showcasing different approaches depending on resource availability. They even provide a sample dataset on Hugging Face.
That's really comprehensive. It seems like they've thought of everything. This project is a great example of open-source collaboration, making advanced ATI research more accessible.
Absolutely. The open nature of this project is key. It allows for community contributions and improvements, accelerating the progress in this field. It's a fantastic resource for researchers and developers alike. A truly remarkable achievement.
Definitely. Thanks for breaking down this exciting project for us. It's clear that OpenR1 is poised to have a significant impact on the field of large language models and reasoning.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time with more exciting developments in the world of technology. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a leaked internal Google document that's causing quite a stir. It claims Google, and OpenAI for that matter, have no real competitive advantage in the AI arms race. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. This is explosive stuff. The core argument seems to be that open-source AI is rapidly surpassing both Google and OpenAI. What's the evidence presented?
The document highlights several key areas. First, it points to the astonishing progress in running LLMs on resource-constrained devices. They're running foundation models on Pixel 6 phones. Think about that. Personal AI on your phone.
That's incredible. And what about other advancements?
Well, the document also mentions scalable personal AI, achievable with fine-tuning on a laptop. Responsible release is also discussed, pointing to the abundance of readily available open-source art and text models. And multimodality? Solved in an hour?
Whoa, so open source is not only catching up, but in some ways exceeding the capabilities of Google and OpenAI's models?
Precisely. The document argues that while Google and OpenAI models might have a slight edge in quality, the gap is closing incredibly fast. Open source models are faster, more customizable, more private, and surprisingly capable, considering their resource constraints. They're achieving results with $100 and 13B parameters that Google struggles with, using $10 million and 540B parameters. That's a huge difference.
That's a staggering cost difference. So, what's Google's proposed solution? Or rather, their assessment of the situation?
The document suggests Google has no secret sauce. Their best bet is to collaborate with the open source community, prioritize third-party integrations, and perhaps most importantly, rethink their reliance on giant models. They argue that smaller, more easily iterated models might be the future.
I see. It's a pretty radical shift in thinking, isn't it, to essentially admit they're behind and need to embrace open source.
Exactly. The document even suggests that focusing on maintaining the largest models is a disadvantage. They emphasize the power of low-rank adaptation, low KRA, a technique that allows for much cheaper and faster fine-tuning. It's a game changer.
It certainly sounds like it. This whole thing hinges on the speed of iteration, right? Open source allows for much faster development cycles.
Absolutely. The document details a rapid timeline of open source advancements following the leak of Meta's LMA model. It's a stunning display of community-driven innovation. The speed at which improvements are being made is simply breathtaking.
It's almost unbelievable. So what about OpenAI? Does the document address their position in all this?
The document argues that OpenAI is making similar mistakes, clinging to a closed-source approach. They suggest that OpenAI's competitive edge is also questionable, and that open-source alternatives will eventually eclipse them unless they change their strategy. It's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It's a fascinating analysis, highlighting the potential disruption of open-source ATI. It makes you wonder what the future holds for the big players.
Indeed. The document concludes by emphasizing the importance of owning the ecosystem, a strategy Google itself has successfully employed with Chrome and Android. They argue that by embracing open source, Google could regain its position as a leader. It's a call for a significant shift in their approach. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to Tech Bytes and News. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating article about Proton VPN and its role in circumventing internet censorship in countries like Venezuela and Russia. It's a real David versus Goliath story, you know?
A 4,000% spike in downloads in Venezuela alone? That's incredible! So Proton VPN essentially became a resistance tool, right? But how did they manage to stay ahead of the censors? It sounds like a constant battle.
Exactly. The article highlights this incredible cat-and-mouse game between Proton and sophisticated censors. In Venezuela, the government tried to block access to news sites and even Wikipedia before the election. Proton, offering free access to Venezuelans, became a lifeline. The government's attempts to discredit it backfired spectacularly. A Streisand effect, if you will.
I see. Interesting. So it wasn't just about Venezuela. Russia presented a much larger challenge, didn't it? With 5 to 6% of Russia's internet traffic reportedly going through Proton at one point.
Absolutely. The scale in Russia was enormous. They faced a massive surge in users after the government blocked Facebook and Instagram, declaring Meta an extremist organization. Proton's infrastructure almost buckled under the pressure. They were literally buying servers as fast as they could find them, regardless of cost. It was a frantic 3 weeks of scrambling to keep up.
Wow. That's, intense. So what kind of technical solutions did they employ? I mean, how do you even begin to outsmart state-sponsored censorship?
Well, it's a multi-pronged approach. They developed stealth protocols, expanded their server networks globally, and created internal tools for emergency deployment. They also automated IP switching, making it harder for censors to block access. And some of their solutions are less technical, shall we say, like disguising the app icon on phones in countries where simply possessing a VPN is illegal.
Disguising the icon? That's clever, but the censors are learning, right? The article mentions Russia's use of machine learning to detect VPN traffic.
Precisely. The censors are becoming increasingly sophisticated, using machine learning to identify VPN fingerprints. It's an arms race, a constant evolution of offensive and defensive strategies. The article even suggests that some countries are buying censorship technology directly from Russia, making the fight even harder.
It sounds exhausting. And what about the role of big tech? The article mentions Apple removing VPN apps from its App Store in Russia.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. Apple and Google's control over app distribution puts users at their mercy. Yen, Proton's CEO, rightly points out that no amount of technical circumvention matters if you can't even get your app onto people's devices. It's a critical point, a new frontier in this fight for internet freedom.
So what's the future look like? It seems like an uphill battle.
It's definitely a long and difficult fight. The splinternet, with countries creating their own isolated internet networks, is already a reality. But despite the odds, Proton and others continue to innovate and fight for a free and open internet. They're driven by a belief in the importance of information access and the power of technology to protect democracy. It's inspiring, really.
It truly is. A testament to human ingenuity and resilience in the face of oppression. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. And thank you for listening to Tech Bytes and News. Join us again tomorrow for another insightful look at the world of technology. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating piece on New Zealand's inventive spirit, a culture often described as the number 8 wire attitude. It's all about resourcefulness and making do with what you have, you know?
Right. I'm really intrigued by this number 8 wire concept. Is it just a catchy phrase, or is there a deeper meaning?
Oh, it's much more than a phrase. It refers to a specific gauge of fencing wire, but it symbolizes the Kiwi knack for adapting simple materials to solve complex problems. Think MacGyver, but with a distinctly New Zealand flavor.
MacGyver with sheep. I love it. So how far back does this inventive tradition go?
Way back. The article highlights Maori ingenuity, their incredible skills in weaving, carving, and building seafaring canoes, impressive feats of engineering, even by today's standards. Even early European observers were amazed.
That's amazing. And it wasn't just the Maori, right? The article mentions a high number of patent applications per capita in the early 20th century.
Exactly. New Zealand consistently ranks high in patents filed relative to its population and GDP. This isn't just about necessity. It's a cultural thing, a deep-seated drive to innovate.
So what are some specific examples of this Kiwi ingenuity?
Well, there's the story of the Nelson streetlights powered by a hydroelectric generator and chickens. The hen's weight triggered a switch, turning the lights on and off automatically. Brilliant, right?
Chickens as electricians. That's unbelievably clever and quirky. What other inventions are mentioned?
Plenty. There's the thermet, a simple water boiler invented by a plumber, improved bicycles, and a carburetor by a cycle dealer, and even a hand pump for freezer bags invented by a homemaker. These weren't just small improvements. Some went global.
Incredible! It shows that innovation isn't limited to trained engineers. It's everywhere. And what about the most famous New Zealand invention?
That would probably be the bungee jump, commercialized by A.J. Hackett. His daring jump from the Eiffel Tower really put it on the map.
Wow, that's quite a leap, both literally and figuratively. So the number 8 wire attitude isn't just about fixing things. It's about a whole culture of invention and problem solving.
Precisely. It's a testament to resourcefulness, adaptability, and a can-do spirit. It's a fascinating aspect of New Zealand's identity. And that's it for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a significant public health issue, a massive tuberculosis outbreak in Kansas, the largest in U.S. history. It's a pretty alarming situation, but let's break it down.
Absolutely. The sheer scale is shocking. And time. I mean, 66 active cases and 79 latent infections? That's a huge number, especially considering the speed at which it spread. What's driving this unprecedented surge?
That's the million-dollar question. The article points to the rapid increase in cases over a short period. It's not just the raw numbers, but the speed of the outbreak that makes it so significant. The fact that the CDC, which has been tracking TB since the 1950s, is calling this the largest ever recorded outbreak. Speaks volumes.
Right. And it's not just confined to one area either. The article mentions Wyandotte County as the epicenter, but Johnson County is also affected. This isn't a localized problem. It's spreading across counties.
Exactly. And the good news, if there is any, is that the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, KDHE, is actively working to contain it. They're collaborating with the CDC, which is standard procedure for outbreaks of this magnitude. They've mobilized resources and are seeing a decrease in active cases, down to around 32, according to Deputy Secretary Goss.
That's encouraging to hear. But the article also highlights the contagious nature of active TB. It's spread through the air, via coughing, speaking, or singing. That's pretty scary.
It is. But the KDHE emphasizes that the risk to the general public remains very low. They're focusing on treatment and contact tracing. The treatment itself is a multi-month course of antibiotics, and after 10 days of medication and 3 negative sputum tests, patients are no longer contagious.
So the key is early detection and treatment. The article mentions a significant jump in cases from 51 in 2023 to 109 in 2024 statewide. That's a massive increase. It underscores the need for vigilance and proactive measures.
Absolutely. And the KDHE is working with large employers in the affected areas to identify and treat latent cases before they become active. Early intervention is crucial to prevent further spread. They're hoping to find more latent cases than active ones, minimizing disruption to people's lives.
It's a complex situation, but the collaborative effort between the KDHE and the CDC gives me some hope. The fact that they're actively managing the situation and seeing progress is positive. But it also highlights the importance of robust public health infrastructure and preparedness for such outbreaks.
Precisely. This outbreak serves as a stark reminder of the importance of public health surveillance and rapid response capabilities. It's a wake-up call, really. We'll continue to monitor this situation and bring you updates as they become available.
Definitely. Thanks for shedding light on this critical issue.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion informative and insightful. Have a great day and stay informed. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the surprisingly simple world of Prolog, a logic programming language. It's a refreshing change from the usual suspects like Python or Java, isn't it?
Absolutely. Most programmers are steeped in imperative and object-oriented paradigms. Prolog's declarative approach is a real shift in perspective. What makes it so different, and why is it considered simple?
Well, the simplicity comes from its core constructs: facts, rules, and queries. It's all about defining relationships, not procedures. You state what's true, define conditional relationships, rules, and then ask questions, queries. Prolog uses unification, a sophisticated form of pattern matching, to find answers. It's elegant in its minimalism, really.
So instead of specifying how to solve a problem, you describe what the solution should look like SQL, but for general-purpose programming?
Exactly. Think of the palindrome example. In Prolog, you define what it means to reverse a list and what constitutes a palindrome. Then, you can ask various questions. Is this a palindrome? What's the reverse of this list? Or even, give me all possible palindromes. The same code handles all these queries. Amazing, right?
That's ... Quite different. I see. The article mentions a case study on an authorization system. How does Prolog handle that, compared to a typical object-oriented approach in Kotlin?
In Kotlin, you'd have classes for users, roles, and rights, with methods to check authorization. It's a lot of code, and adding time-based authorization would be a major refactor. In Prolog, you define relationships. A user has a role has a right. Adding time is a simple matter of adding a timestamp to the relationships. The core logic remains the same, but you gain incredible flexibility. It's incredibly powerful.
But isn't that flexibility a double-edged sword? Doesn't it make debugging or understanding complex Prolog code more difficult? I mean, it seems almost too abstract.
That's a valid concern. The learning curve is definitely steeper than for imperative languages. However, the article argues that Prolog's simplicity helps keep your system simple, preventing unnecessary complexity that often creeps into object-oriented designs. It forces you to think relationally, which can lead to more elegant and maintainable solutions for the right kind of problem. It's a trade-off, you know?
I see. So it's not about the language being inherently better, but about choosing the right tool for the job. Prolog's strength lies in its declarative nature and its ability to handle multiple query modes from a single relation definition. It's a powerful concept.
Precisely. The article highlights this beautifully. While Prolog might not be the go-to language for every project due to factors like community size and tooling, understanding its declarative paradigm offers a valuable new perspective for any programmer. It's a powerful tool to add to your arsenal. And remember, there are excellent resources available to learn it, from books to online courses, and even a subreddit. Give it a try.
Definitely worth exploring. Thanks for this insightful discussion.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion enlightening. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.